here's the thing that's going to make people mad. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Some people will probably agree with me. I think that rescinding birthright citizenship is the correct application of the 14th Amendment.
Ooh, interesting. I got to hear more. Explain yourself.
Okay. So birthright citizenship basically comes from the 14th Amendment. And I'm going to share my screen here. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment. All right. This is Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Can you see that? Do I need to make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good to me.
Section 1 of the 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, hold that phrase in your mind, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if we just ignored this part, subject to the jurisdiction, I can't know why I can't say that word, jurisdiction thereof, it would read like this. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States. So the question is, that section and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, why is it there? Why is it there if people born or naturalized are just automatically citizens? Why is it there? Well, it's there because you can't just be born here and become a citizen. The reason this is written this way is because this is to free the slaves and to create citizenship for former slaves, that they would be granted citizenship right away. That's the 14th Amendment. Okay. So what they're saying is there's no place for the slaves to go back to. They've been in the United States for years and years, decades and decades. They have no jurisdiction that they are subject to besides the United States.
Wow.
Okay. So those slaves, since they have no jurisdiction to, no other country that they would be subject to, aside from the United States, are automatically granted citizenship when their kids are born here. So they've been naturalized because they go from slaves to citizens. And when their child is born to them, they now become citizens by their birthright because they're born of a citizen of the United States that was once enslaved and not a citizen. But because those slaves didn't have a jurisdiction to go back to, the United States said, what do we do? Well, they're subject to our jurisdiction and our laws, therefore they are citizens in our country. So the question is, how does that apply today? What we've done, and I believe it was in like 1898 or something like that, there was a Supreme Court decision that basically read this as, the plain reading is basically, they didn't say this, so people in the comments don't think I'm saying that they said this. I'm just saying they basically said this middle section and subject to the jurisdiction thereof doesn't mean anything. Anyone born here is a citizen here. Now, the reason that makes sense in 1898, oh, look at this. Look at that. Hi, Aaliyah and Danielle. Good to see you.
Oh, that's great.
Those are my daughter. Those are my daughters are apparently watching us. Nice. Hey, we'll give them a civics lesson.
There you go.
So anyway, the all person. So the subject of the jurisdiction thereof. The question is, what was going on in 1898? Now, in 1898, it's hard to get to the United States. Okay, so it's difficult to actually come here. And when you come here in 1898, you're probably going to be here for a long time. You might even be pursuing citizenship because the boat ride is difficult and arduous. So that's why the Supreme Court in that instance would read it the way that they did. They wouldn't have thought that there would just be droves and droves of people crossing the southern border and having babies, and then, or that there would be somebody from Switzerland that has a baby in an airport in the United States and all of a sudden that baby is a citizen, right? They wouldn't have ever thought of that because airports didn't exist and because it was hard to get here, even if you consider coming from Mexico. So the question is, okay, in our current landscape, how is the 14th Amendment to be read? And I think you have to go back to kind of that originalist intent of that clause, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If you're here and you are personally subject to a jurisdiction of a different state, your child who is born here would not automatically be a citizen. That makes perfect sense to me. Whether you're illegal or legal, say there is an ambassador from Germany in the United States, and he brings his wife, and his wife is 7 months pregnant. They don't think they're going to have the baby, but they're here, and she goes into premature labor, and then they have the baby. That ambassador from Germany, all of a sudden, you're telling me that their child is a citizen of the United States because they accidentally went into labor while they're here?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. They would be subject to the jurisdiction of the German government. So their baby would then also be subject to the jurisdiction of the German government. Thus, their baby would not be an American citizen, would be a German citizen. That doesn't mean you expel the baby right away, obviously, from the United States. It just means that they won't be granted automatic citizenship, that they have to go through the process like anybody else. What Trump's executive order doesn't do is remove birthright citizenship retroactively. Okay, so it doesn't do that. There's no way to do that. The other thing that it doesn't do is remove birthright citizenship for people who are citizens or are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States government. So I have a child. If I have another child, yes, they will have birthright citizenship because they're born to two citizens. They'll be automatically a citizen. So anyway, that's I don't know if it was convoluted. That's like civics, I don't know, of Immigration 101. Any thoughts on that, Tim?
Yeah, would you say that, if you were making the laws, would somebody born here have two parents that are both citizens, or could you have one citizen and one non-citizen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's an ambiguity that would have to be kind of fleshed out in the courts. Generally speaking, what I would say is likely that child would be a citizen. But I don't know. I don't know exactly how that would work out.
Yeah, I mean, because then you got the questions. Okay, you've got an illegal criminal who sneaks across the border, and then
gets married, or just has a kid with an American citizen. Well, that would be different because the custody would not be, the custody chain wouldn't be, and I think it would also be different if you're married while you're pregnant, probably. So there are some issues that would be worked out in the system, and they should be worked out in the system. Yeah. But it removes I'll put it this way. Tim, let's say you're going to have a kid someday again. And not going to happen, but in some world somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
And you fly with your pregnant wife to Germany. I don't know why I'm picking on Germany. Maybe it's because I'm German. And you guys have your baby there. Is your desire, would you be like, oh, I guess my child, we're not, but my child is a citizen now here. Would that make sense to you? I don't think it would make sense to you. I don't think anyone would think that. So why, if somebody came illegally, would that all of a sudden be the case?
Right. And I think that is what the melodist, the point that the melodist is making here. I break into your house, give birth, therefore I'm a legal resident of your house. Yes. We wouldn't apply that to a house, so why do we extrapolate it to the much bigger house of our nation?
Yeah, and the biggest thing is you have to go with what does the Constitution say, because it's in there, right? It's in there. This birthright citizenship.
Unless you work to make an amendment.
Yeah, which would never pass.
Pretty difficult, right?
But I think that clause, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, has just been ignored, and it needs to no longer be ignored. So
that's a great point. Never heard that case.
Yeah, and so we got a bunch of originalists on the Supreme Court now, and what the Democrats and the leftists don't understand is that if they take this executive to the Supreme Court, that is exactly what Donald Trump wants, because guess what? That's how the Supreme Court is going to rule it. It's going to be a 5-4 decision, and they're going to remove birthright citizenship, in my opinion.
Wow.
That's my prediction. Stamp it. That's my prediction. There's an interesting thing about the 14th Amendment too, as we get into it. That I really hope, I think I've talked about this before. So if you read down in Section 1, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Again, a protection to former slaves. No state nor shall, I'm going to highlight it here, nor shall deprive any person, see that? of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. I think there's a case to be made that if someone had the money and ability to do it, to sue Planned Parenthood or whatever, or whoever, to the Supreme Court, that the unborn is a person, and that any abortion would deprive that person of life, liberty, or property. So if the unborn is a person, according to the 14th Amendment, we cannot kill the unborn without due process of law.
Yeah.
So just another
Wow.
another interesting thing about the 14th Amendment.
So yeah, I mean, they tried to say 50 some years ago that somehow abortion was found in the Constitution. You've just demonstrated the opposite. Within the 14th Amendment, it's clear that human persons are being violated unconstitutionally, and that would apply to unborn human persons.
Yeah, and I think that there's a case to be made for that, and I think that if someone had the money and the wherewithal to somehow, this is why I wish a federal abortion ban would get signed into law, because it would be sued up to the Supreme Court. In fact, here's what I would wish, and it's not going to happen, but I would wish a president would do an executive order saying all abortion federally illegal.
Yeah.
And then that would get sued and say pursuant to the 14th Amendment, and that would get sued up to the Supreme Court. With originalists on the Supreme Court, I think that's a way to get a federal abortion ban.
We got a shot.
Yes, if people will do it. I don't have hey, donate to my GoFundMe. I'm just kidding. We should start a petition to get a lawyer, and let's try to do this, right?
All right.